This video is the next in a series I am doing on the 5 things that I did to achieve my goal weight and goal physique. Today I'm talking about how I achieved freedom from my sugar addiction. First, going to give you 2 quick points of inspiration on how this has changed my life. So not only have I achieved my goal weight, my goal physique, but my life's changed in unexpected ways that I didn't even realize until I started looking back on how much has changed in these past 6 months since I got sugar out of my life, because I now have so much more time and I now have a clear mind. So for example, I have a much more positive outlook on life. Didn't expect that to happen, but it does make sense with the way addiction, what it takes from us, and now being free from it, what I've been given back. I also don't have to worry about my weight as much anymore. I still have other food issues I'm working on, so there's some things I have to manage, but one of the books that I read, in my many efforts of trying to get sugar out of my life over the past decade and basically my whole life even, said that once we get that refined sugar out of our life, we don't have to worry about our weight because our body will just manage it itself. And that has been true for me. And I also didn't even quite realize that till I started making this video. I only weigh myself once a month now, and I've been the same weight for the past 4 months after 6 months of being free from sugar. So I'm Molly MC. I started a venture called Freedom Through Truth with a goal to share life lessons learned on how I've been able to achieve personal growth and transformation and make difficult changes in my life. So I first want to talk about how difficult it was to make this change, because it has been years and years of trying to get sugar out of my life, and only recently have I been successful at it. And I want to give you that encouragement because I know most people are in a similar situation of that trying and failing, and the depression and the sadness and the hopelessness that comes with it. I used to eat thousands and thousands of calories, and I would go for days on these binges, and it would be so difficult to get out of it. And even when I finally could, I'd be miserable in my efforts to. I started to get diabetic symptoms like my skin. I was getting rashes, I was getting neuropathy, starting to have vision problems. And of course, the weight gain and the fluctuations in weight and how frustrating that can be, and having 6 sizes of clothing in my closet, and all of this that led to such frustration that, of course, the only thing that's going to make me feel better is eating more. So it's just that vicious cycle of addiction. But it got to this point in my life where the misery of trying to keep sugar in my life was way worse than any sort of comfort or release or fun, pleasure, entertainment that I thought it was bringing me. It was a dream trip that I was going on, or at least a trip where I was pursuing a dream of mine that was completely ruined by what was going on in my head and my heart and my soul about my sugar addiction while I was there, because it was really coming to a head. I couldn't eat the way that I wanted to and still have the life that I wanted to based on the reality of my biology, of our biology. So what I mean by that is I couldn't find a way to eat all the sugar and the binge foods that I wanted to and still feel good physically and emotionally and mentally, and have the quality relationships that I wanted and the quality of life that I wanted. So I finally got to the point where all of my options were so miserable, and cutting it out was really the only one that was realistic, and that was going to be a change that I knew in my heart that was actually going to work. So the 4 options were: I could continue to try to control this addiction, be obsessed, toggle with how much to eat and what to eat and when to eat and how to hide it and how to get in as much as I wanted and when I would be able to have the chance to not feel good physically or emotionally because of this, and basically just have it run my life because there was no way I could have any control over it. Or I could do whatever I wanted and gain a bunch of weight, hate the way I look and feel, be uncomfortable, and then because I was in that misery, just want to eat more. And knowing myself, I'd still want to try to control it and try to come back from that so I didn't gain too much weight. And I would tell myself that I would be able to change or change later, but eventually I would lose control completely and again feel physically awful and emotionally awful, and then get to a point where I wouldn't even want to work out or have the motivation or maybe even the ability to do so. And of course, the final option, besides making a change, would be just to completely give up, become obese, And at this stage in my life, at this age in my life, that would be very hard to come back from. Now, of course, the other option was try to get free from this addiction. I couldn't even bring myself to consider that as an option when I was thinking through all this, when I really got to that miserable bottom for me during this time in my life. But I will share with you a few quick things on how I did this. The last video in this series, though, I will share much more detail about this. But so you have this information now. 2 things that I did. I learned how to change my mind, and I joined a support network. So I worked on changing thought patterns about sugar and why I went to it and what I thought life would be like without it and the fear I had with that. Changing those thought patterns changed associated emotions and helped me change my behavior. I wrote out my current beliefs and then I asked myself, if this is true, and if not, what is the truth? And if it is the truth, do I want it to be? What do I want my actual reality to be? So I wasn't lying to myself, but I was saying to myself, what do I believe now? Is that true? And or do I want that to be true? And how do I get to the goal reality that I'm looking for? A support network was huge for me because that's where I work to maintain this freedom that I've achieved, as well as work through other food issues that I still have that could lead me back to sugar addiction. If you want more information on that or recommendations, please reach out to me privately. And I know with something like sugar, something that is so prevalent in our society and in our food, it can be hard to understand that it actually can be an addiction. So think about all of the other elements that come with being addicted to something. It's not just the activity itself, it is the anticipation of the reward we get. It's preparing for the reward. It's the routine. It's the looking forward to it. It's having our life revolve around it. And then it's having it cause trouble in other areas of our life. So we start, or we want to try to make the change, and then we try to, and then we fail, and then we feel defeated, then we feel hopeless. And the only thing that's going to make us feel better is to eat more of that substance, to have more of that sugar, more of that food. And then we get into this vicious cycle of addiction that's affecting our hormones. It's affecting the chemicals in our body. It's affecting the way that we view life. And my life revolved around, when do I get to eat more of that sugar? It affects my relationships, what I did with my time, as I mentioned earlier. All of our thought processes, our mental, our emotional, of course, our physical being. And we get to this point where we want to make a change, but we just can't seem to, and we keep failing. And even when we succeed, we're miserable in the process of trying to do so for some short spurts of time that we might have some success. So I want to tell you, don't beat yourself up, because we are in a losing situation, not the losing of weight situation that we'd like to be in, but a situation where we're set up for failure because this standard American diet that we are taught to believe is normal, of huge portions, tons of refined sugar, sugar's put in tons of things that it's not even needed in, lots of processed food, lots of excess food that makes it very easy to gain weight and very difficult to lose it. So we are, again, in a losing situation if our goal is health and a healthy weight. So I do know what worked for me. Like I said, figuring out how to change my mind and getting into a support program. I am curious for others, though, of what's worked for you that might be different from that, or different variations of that, or things that you've tried that haven't worked, or things that you might try again and give it another shot. But you've got to find some source of strength. It can be a power greater than yourself, as we have in our recovery programs, or it can just be your inner strength. It's something that can help you get your mind changed, to help you make up your mind that you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that the potential misery of getting out of that addiction is going to be better than the misery that you are in now. And take it from people who do have success, and believe them when they tell you that it is better on the other side of addiction. Look to the people who have had success and do what they did. It obviously worked for them. It probably will work for you. And I'm pretty confident if you try some of these things, you will find that it works for you. A few tips before I close out. on looking for added sugars in the food that you eat. You've got to read the labels and look for, under carbohydrates, look for added sugars, and then look at the ingredients and see what kind of sugar is in those foods. It's in places you wouldn't expect. I love protein bars, for example, but a ton of them have so many extra added grams of sugar in them, almost as much as candy bars do, but I found some really great options that don't have added sugar. I do still eat bread, but I stick to whole grain bread, and one brand in particular that I really trust how they make it and the ingredients that are in it. But even some of those flavors have more added sugars than I can handle. I can handle about 1 to 3 grams of added sugars in the foods that I eat. More than that can lead to a craving for me, can be triggering. But that's going to be completely up to you, what works for you as you trial and error in this process for you, and it will take some time to figure that out. The most important thing is, are you being honest with yourself about it? Doesn't matter what other people are doing or what other people tell you to do. What matters is what works for you, as long as you are being completely honest with yourself. So the next video, I'm going to share about the sugar replacements that I found that have made this process a lot easier for me and a lot more enjoyable for me. So subscribe to be notified, and I'll see you in the next one.